Southern Nevadans are the water smartest, saving 200 billion gallons over the years. Residents, HOAs, and businesses follow the seasonal watering schedule and replace grass with water-smart landscaping. Golf courses operate within water budgets. Resorts account for just 7% of the valley's water use. And developers, they're doing their part too. They follow strict water-smart building codes. So thank you, and keep saving water where it matters most, outdoors. Learn more at snwa.com. Did you know Reno and Las Vegas are the two fastest warming cities in the nation? So what are we doing to combat those rising temps? Well, today on CityCast Las Vegas, we're joined by reporter Michael MJ Lyle and artist Justin Favela to explain how officials are trying to help us cool down, and we'll offer up our best tips to beat the heat this summer. It's Monday, June 22nd. I'm Jesse Merrick, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. All right, MJ, Justin, it has gotten way too hot, way too fast this year. How are the both of you coping with these high temps in June already?
Is it just too hot, or is it just us? Just kidding.
Ooh.
Look at that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hot. The seasonal depression has sunk in. So yeah, it's hot.
It's seasonal depression. I love that because I've never thought about it that way. But it's like people up north in Seattle and Portland are probably like, wait, what? You're getting depressed when the sun's out? I totally get that.
I am. Maybe like more depressed, angry side, because like I just get so overheated and so angry, especially if I'm driving, through construction, even if like my AC is cranking full blast, like that stop and go in like the glare of the sun, like It just is a lot. It makes me more prone to anger.
There's nothing worse when you jump in the car too, or like, you got the leather seats or the hot, seatbelt buckle burns you if you're out in the sun. You're like, God, make you want to punch through the window or something, which are some of the implications, I guess, of dealing with the heat. And so with that, I guess we have to talk about the other implications and kind of lay the foundation of this whole thing. MJ, you've done a lot of reporting on this. How would you describe what the city's doing, overall to help with heat mitigation here in the Valley?
Yeah, so like you mentioned at the top of the episode, Reno and Las Vegas are the fastest warming city. Yay us for being at the top of a list.
Yes.
I know.
Oh my God, we have to wear it with honor.
I know. Sad that it's this list, but because of that, we've seen so many heat-related deaths. And so last year, during this legislative session, lawmakers mandated that cities in both northern and southern Nevada adopt heat mitigation strategies. Strategies could include things like access and creating cool spaces, public access to drinking water, cool building practices, shade areas. And so earlier this year during the interim committee, lawmakers were updated by municipalities about where they're at. And there's still a lot that has to be done, to be frank. A lot of municipalities are going in on expanding tree coverage and access to tree giveaways, but they still don't have a lot of plans around access to public drinking water. So that's one thing they're doing right now. They're kind of looking at mitigating or expanding their plans as cities and counties to actually what is included in their urban planning strategies.
Okay. So, I mean, at least there is somewhat of a plan here. It seems like, the infancy of it all. Justin, I'm curious how you wrap your head around, what they've managed to do so far. Do you think this is enough?
I mean, it's definitely not enough, but it's a step in the right direction, right? I think the conversations we're having now should have happened like 50 years ago, and then we would be in a better place, because I'm thinking of cities like Albuquerque or even like Tucson, where people are really thinking about how much concrete they lay down, how much asphalt they lay down to cool the city down, right? And, talking about planting trees and just more education on landscaping in the desert, because we are this, destination, and we want people to believe they're in an oasis a lot of times. A lot of the way that we treat plants here are so harsh, and in turn kills trees. For example, pruning, right? We should be hand pruning our trees and our shrubs here because of the heat, so they can come back. But, everybody loves a perfectly round topiary, But there's already so many existing, flora that could be shade that we're just like topping trees, right?
Yeah.
And getting rid of mesquites when we should be embracing the native plants in Las Vegas.
Yeah, definitely. And MJ, kind of along the lines as Justin just noted, concrete was one thing. I know
Yeah.
in the Phoenix area, they've done like cool pavement,
Yeah,
which is kind
yeah.
of interesting. They laid down like over 100 miles of, I don't know, some cooling, sealant that helps kind of keep things like
Yeah.
12 degrees cooler. What more would you like to see done maybe along those lines here to kind of push things in the right direction cooling wise?
It's funny that you mentioned that because that was actually a question from our reporter, Dana Gentry, to city officials and county officials in 2022. And so we asked them about.
Long time ago.
A long time ago, 4 years ago, like many summers ago, summer of reaching 120 degrees ago, we're asking about why not consider these other practices around cooling pavement and other things that cities are doing as far as looking at the pavement and kind of the way that the heat is retained in the pavement and the way not only causing burns on people, but also how it reflects, the surfaces reflects and just makes everything hotter. But this is not something that's being mandated for them to look at. And I don't know where they're at looking at something like this. I know there's a lot of complications that go into this. I mean, a lot of the pavement company here in town gets a lot of contracts on it. And so I don't know if they're kind of buying into this too. That's kind of one of the things she talks about in the article. Again, 2022. But yeah, there's so much we could be doing that cities around us at places like Phoenix that also have rising death rates because of extreme heat are considering that should be. And I'm curious that like after we get a full view of their full plan that was mandated by lawmakers, if lawmakers are going to go back and say, actually, we want more, if like cities aren't going to take solutions like this and really dive into how feasible they are, or at least they'll do a cost analysis of what that could look like here in Southern Nevada.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And like, Justin, I'm curious too, because it seems like another issue is just like creating more shade, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we have enough shade in general, particularly in the downtown North Las Vegas and East Las Vegas areas. It seems it's really lacking there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on the border of East Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, and they're older neighborhoods, so there are more trees, so it does feel a little cooler. But as far as, like the bus stops and, the public art, I think if like the city or any of these government organizations start calling out for art, why not make a call for artists to innovate ways of creating shade in a way that would not only be aesthetically pleasing, but also is beautifying the city with art, right? And so, but I am currently working on a public artwork, and I know it's a lot harder than it sounds. It's like been 2 years of engineering and permits and all that. But it would be a great way to think about future public art, and I see a lot of work being done finally with shade structures on bus stops, because it's so cruel just to have them on the side of the sidewalk.
It's brutal.
It's very brutal. Yeah, but I mean, it's an infrastructure thing, right? Putting it on us, putting it on the consumer, that's what usually happens. But really, it's like, why don't we start talking about parking lot designs, right?
Yes.
Why don't we start talking about leaving the medians open with native plants, right? To cool everything down. There's very simple steps that can be taken, but again, it's a cultural shift. People see a sagebrush or a creosote bush and they think it's a weed, when really it's a way for our ecosystem to exist and cool down, right?
Well, I think part of that too, education to that point of knowing what you're looking at. But MJ too, I think even education for lawmakers and stuff too, because it sounds like they tried to create more shade with trees, but handed out the wrong trees. Like what happened there?
So when North Las Vegas kind of gave their update, they were saying that in 2022 they had reached 3% tree coverage, but as of this year, it was down to 2.2%. And the reason that was happening is because they were planting heat-tolerant trees, not drought-tolerant trees. And so it was a lesson that they had to learn. Yeah, and if you would imagine, like, there is differences, which I'm not a tree or plant guy. I'm like, but when they mentioned that, I was like, oh yeah, that does make sense. Yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of where they're at now. And so having to figure out the best trees that works not just for heat, but drought resistance too. But there was an interesting question I thought that was brought up by one of the lawmakers of like, well, we have all these warehouses that are reflecting all this heat in the neighborhood. So are we just negating all our hard-earned work by having these buildings that are still shining and reflecting heat into neighborhoods, despite that we're expanding our tree coverage? And so there wasn't really a good conclusion to that point, but it was something that was brought up in this discussion of like, around the fact that yes, we're doing tree planting, but there's more that we can be doing as far as regulations, as far as like building construction of what they're doing and what they're bringing to like the heat and urban island effect. So
yeah,
Yeah.
incentivizing like rooftop gardens
Yeah.
or solar panel shade structures on existing buildings. Like a lot of these big box stores have already implemented that into their architecture. Not only are they saving money, but they're also creating shade in the parking lots. Instead of like doing these giant solar farms in the desert, there's so much square footage we could be using that's just already here.
A lot,
right? And just going to waste, right? If you think about it.
One question that I have in the back of my mind that I haven't done any reporting on, but it's just something that I've seen from across the country is the expansion of a lot of what's called anti-homeless hostile infrastructure and initiatives where you see that bus benches are kind of, instead you can like a giant slab of a bus bench, they're segmented so people can't lay down. But one of the things that I'm curious about is how the lack of shade structures at certain bus stops or in certain areas, if that is part of this like design to prevent homelessness from gathering in certain spots. I don't have any answers to that, but I've seen that being discussed in research in other areas of this country and just in general. And so I'm curious if kind of we are putting ourselves in a place where we're not having as much shade because we are putting up infrastructure as a response to homelessness instead of housing people, but to keep them from gathering instead.
Step into the movies with the Neon Museum's new movie tour in the heart of Las Vegas. Take a guided walk through real neon backdrops that have actually appeared in some of Hollywood's most memorable scenes over the decades. Your tour starts in the iconic La Concha Motel lobby, which is now the Neon Museum's visitor center, and a key setting in Scorsese's film Casino. Stand where Robert De Niro and Sharon Stone filmed their romantic evening as Ace and Ginger, and then wander the world-famous neon boneyard surrounded by vintage marquees and historic signs. Plus, you'll connect neon landmarks to films like Casablanca, Superman, and The Joe Louis Story. Relive the comedy of Vegas Vacation as you walk among signs tied to Chevy Chase's classic. You'll hear insider stories and fun trivia that bring these movie moments to life and capture unforgettable photos. So join fellow cinephiles on a one-of-a-kind tour that turns the Neon Museum into your own movie set. Check out the Neon Museum's new movie tour and discover how Las Vegas earned its reputation as the entertainment capital of the world through film.
In Vegas in general, as this is all going on, we still have to find a way to beat the heat. And I think a lot of us will just be like, okay, go outside early in the morning and late in the evening. But the big problem is, and I realized this when I moved here, that I still have not been able to get over, is that when the sun goes down, it can still be 100 degrees or in the mid to high 90s. That's really hard to get over. So, Justin, I'm curious, like, what's your go-to, for the evenings to be able to kind of beat the heat when it's still scorching hot at night?
I know. I mean, it's hard. I mean, all I can say is like, just stay inside. It's what you got to do. But then we get back to that. We get back to that seasonal depression thing, right? That's why we're depressed, because we're just indoors all the time because it's so dang hot outside. But, this is the time for you to support your local art galleries, your local restaurants. It's like, theater. Local theater. You haven't been down to, Area 15 yet. Go check it out, right? So, I mean, that's one of the ways. But obviously, staying indoors. But, I mean, we live in the desert. It's just part of life here, right?
You got to accept it,
You got to accept it. For example, my front yard was a traditional xeriscape with rocks and a couple of bushes. And I decided I'm going to go full native garden, pollinator garden on the inside.
Nice.
And I can already tell it's cooled down the dirt because I've taken all the rocks out, and the rocks were retaining heat, right? Kind of like that same houseless design where they just put a bunch of rocks instead of landscaping, right? To make it rugged. It's just like there's simple ways to make shade areas and cooler areas around you.
Yeah, and that'll help a ton. Again, yeah, like you said, in the evening, just around your home, right? Just right then and there, to be able to hang out outside, and it won't be dealing with that almost like heat island effect in a sense. MJ, do you have any good tips, for the evening of how you'll stay cool? I always try and find patios that because I'm a sucker for a patio, whether it's 100 degrees or 115, I still love being outside. So I guess
good mister.
Yeah, exactly. Find the misters, find the fans, all that different stuff. Like those are always my go-to. How do you end up kind of navigating things?
Yeah, there is. I mean, I'm a movie buff in general, but like in the summer in particular, like I like just staying inside and they're so cool. And like by the time you get out, like you almost need to be warmed up by the outside heat, which is great. Like, but it is hard. Like it is that adds to that seasonal depression and my anger of like it's midnight, I'm outside and it's 100 degrees. Like, what is going on? How do I do this? But I think my outside excursions are very limited during summer months just because it is so frustrating. Like, no matter how many steps you take, whether you're just wearing the bare minimum, right now I'm in a tank top and shorts, which is like my uniform if I can get away with it for the summer. But there's only so much that you can do. And so it's kind of mostly staying inside and just kind of getting through it and hoping it passed quickly.
Yeah.
I will say, if I want to be outside in the summer, I will usually go to the Clark County Wetlands Park because it's so cool. And
tons of shade, too.
Yeah. And for a little bit, I lived in Northwest Arkansas, actually, and they did this really interesting thing. Oh, my gosh. The summers were I'd rather be here, honestly.
Yeah, take the dry heat. That's a real thing. We can deal with that, yeah.
Yes. But something really cool that they did is all the washes, all the like, we have the Las Vegas wash here, for example. We did the LA thing. We made it all into a big concrete tunnel, but they took some of the infrastructure that was already concrete and brought it back to nature to make it more of a trail, right? You see this in Green Valley. They left their trails with the natural plants and stuff. And so thinking about ways like that to cool down entire neighborhoods instead of the channels being cement, you could let nature take its course. But I also understand it's a safety concern. We want the flood channels to actually work, but there is a way to have a little bit of both,
One thing I really do like to do also in the summer is go check out Super Summer Theater, because it is kind of like a little bit on the outskirts in that Spring Mountain Ranch, and like it is like, even though you're in the summer, like it drops significantly at night. So you're watching a play and like I remember the last few times I went, it was in August. And so it was still like in the hundreds here, but like I went up there and by the time that the play started and even ended, I was actually kind of cold up there. And so it's like, you're getting entertained, you're supporting local artists that are performing out there, and you're actually escaping the heat, and it's not too far and not too expensive. Like it's a very accessible thing to kind of hit all these buckets.
Yeah, big time game changer for sure. One thing that I've yet to do, but I've just always kind of thought like, oh, it sounds like a great idea. And I'm a guy that does try to avoid the Strip, but go down to the Strip and do the dive-in movies at the Cosmopolitan.
Oh, yeah.
You're kicking it in the pool in the evening, as it's going on. And like, I think that's kind of a cool setup. It's $10 for locals. Sometimes they're playing some fun movies. And like, if you go on a Saturday this year too, you could hit the fireworks, at least in the summer months here as they're celebrating America's 250th birthday. So like, that's one way to stay cool. Although I will say this, like I hate shorts. I'm not a shorts guy personally. For me,
no.
my legs are too white. I'm a ginger. Legs are too white. I'm going to blind some people. So what I've invested in this summer so far is the linen clothes or linen blended clothes. So like that's really like a big deal. It makes a massive difference, and I can still wear pants even when it hits 100 degrees and I'm not like dying, So that's been something that's really helped me. But these aren't necessarily off the wall things. These are, pretty easy things people can do. What are some of the like more random things that are like very Vegas things maybe that people can do day, night, whatever it is to try and escape? My number one thing for that is going up to Mount Charleston, like you kind of noted there. It's 20 degrees cooler when you do jump up there. A really great way to beat the heat. How do you guys do it, again, when you're like, okay, forget this, enough of the seasonal depression, I got to get outside, maybe in the middle of the day? How are you kind of cooling off?
Today, I went to lunch, and I said, you know what? I want to walk this off. And, usually I could walk around my studio or my neighborhood, but it's too damn hot, right? So I went to the Charleston Indoor Swap Meet and walked around, right?
Oh, there you go.
Let's bring back mall culture, right?
Yes.
Go to the boulevard, go to the Mercadito, walk around. Exactly. bring back
like
mall
high school
walking.
vibes right here. I love it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I remember when I used to live downtown and I wanted to get my steps in, I just would say, okay, well, I'll start at the Four Queens and then end at the Plaza, right? And just walk through all the casinos in the air conditioning, right?
Yeah.
And
No, it's so key. That's a very
Yeah.
Vegas thing. Like, I love doing it, especially when I first moved here. Yeah.
That's my favorite way to beat the heat.
I'm going to go in a slightly different direction of like, not necessarily a very tip, but I think I want to put this note out there in case people aren't aware, but everyone's going to be running their air conditioning nonstop during the summer if they can. But utilities can't disconnect your air conditioning or can't disconnect your power if temperatures reach above 105 degrees. It's 95 degrees if you're disabled or elderly. And so I don't know how commonly well known that tip is. And so
I didn't know
want
that.
tip,
Yeah.
I want that tip to be out there in the universe in case you do have a disruption in your power services because of a bill issue. Right now, like where the temperatures are at, they're not supposed to actually disconnect. And so I think people should be aware of that, especially if they're worried that that's going to happen during the summer. If you are reliant on medical equipment being powered too, I believe they're supposed to delay that like up to 30 days as well. There are some protections. So like, not necessarily like a personal tip, but I do want people to be aware of kind of some of the protections that are out there during these summer months when you're trying to survive.
No, it's a great tip to remain like vigilant, and kind of fight back a bit. I mean, even recently, like I live downtown and we had the power go out and about 370 people, at least according to the alert that I got from NV Energy hit. And it was warm, and I would every time it happens, I think like, God, what happens if this happens in the dead of summer?
Yeah.
It would be an issue. Yeah. So that's something I definitely don't want to deal with. The other thing too, that I've thought about of just like very Vegas things, I feel like we must have the most ice bars per capita than anywhere else. I think maybe than like Canada. I don't know. But like, you could go to an ice bar, kind of cool off that way. Another one that's also, I feel like just a very Southern Nevada thing. We have so many ghost towns, obviously. If you head out to the El Dorado Canyon Mine Tour, it's always like 70 degrees in the mine. Very touristy, don't get me wrong. But I did it. I loved it. And it's like 70 degrees and you still kind of feel like you're getting out and about.
I've never done that before. Now I'm going to put that on my list.
Yeah. It's sweet, creepy, but sweet. I
I like creepy. You don't know me well enough yet, Jess, but I do creepy very well. So yeah.
Now I'm wondering too, what is it? Zach Bagans, and that's not something I usually do with the Haunted Museum. I'm sure they've got good AC, but then you're probably leaving with something more than you bargained for. So I'm not going there. I'm not touching that. No chance.
Bone chilling.
Yeah. Oh yeah. See, there you go. Well, hey, now we have a nice little arsenal to stay cool this summer. So thank you guys for these tips. Hopefully the listeners can take heed and beat the heat here.
Thanks so much. Good luck.
Thank you.
Enduring the triple digit heat.
Stay cool, everybody.
That's all today here on CityCast Las Vegas. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our free morning newsletter as well. And don't forget, you can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Las Vegas neighbor at membership.citycast.fm/Las Vegas. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Until then, though, take care.